Oh, hello guys. So I'm gonna kind of make a first impression video of what I think of the MyT so far. I've had 2 nights in imaging with it. This is my 3rd night, and so far I just have to say this is probably the nicest thing I've ever owned in my life. It's very top notch. So I'll just show you guys the startup process hopefully and show you some imaging with this thing. So everything about this mount is like kind of extra. They put in a ton of thought into like every single bit of it, and you can really see that like this is some serious equipment. So first off, one of these features that I really like about this is it has these locks here for transport. So the cool thing about this is that it guarantees you can't like transmit a load onto the actual worm gear inside here. Like if you were using an Atlas or something, you would have, if you're transporting it with the axes locked, you would have the gears meshed together, and if you had like something bang on it, you would have load directly transferred on to that sensitive gear, which could be really bad for the teeth on the gear. So this is a really smart solution to, you know, reducing potential damage that could come up. So this lock just pulls out like this, and then you can come over here and just plonk the worm gear in. Now the worm gear is engaged, and we can do that on the other axis right here. You can just pull that out, and my camera is a little west heavy, so probably not a one-handed maneuver, but oh, worm gear, where are you? There we go. RA worm gear is engaged. So let me show you guys the startup. So here's the on button in the back, and you gotta listen for this. It makes a nice little beep when it comes on. Which is very cute. It's a very nice beep. And this is the hand controller for the Paramount. Also very nice. It has a red flashlight in it, which is really extra, but really cool. And yeah, this thing is made out of some kind of metal. Very nice. But the best part about the Paramount is that every time you start up the mount, it has to go to a thing called home. And the home position corresponds to like a certain amount in RA and in deck. I don't know exactly what it is, but it'll point like off in this direction. But anyways, if you know where the mount is at the start of every time, you can calibrate your periodic error curve every single time and always have an accurate PE curve, which is very huge. So if I were using like my Atlas or something, and I did a PE curve on the Atlas and then locked everything down, and then I went to start up the next night, unlocked the clutch, moved it, and then relocked the clutch, that periodic error curve would be out of phase by however much I rotated that axis. So homing it lets you know how out of phase it is every time, and it lets you recalibrate the error curve accurately every time. So we can go ahead and home the mount by giving it a nice double click. And then this thing will slew off to the home position. Got a nice pull master right there. But that'll slew to home. Then you'll get 2 successive beeps once it's successfully homed itself, and this takes a second. It has to dial itself in pretty accurately to where that actual physical stop is. So first beep, second beep. And now that both those beeps are done, the mount knows where it is. It loads that PE curve back from the data that's on the mount, and then it's good to go. Periodic error and everything corrected. I can use my joystick to slew it around. Pretty epic. So tonight I think I'll be going for the Horsehead Nebula again. I've gotten a couple hours in on it so far, and we're just gonna keep it going. Maybe also the Helix Nebula, we'll see, but I'm taking you guys along. So if you guys are unfamiliar with some of the technical aspects of the Paramount, it's just a normal German equatorial design. It has a 50-pound payload capacity, and it can have a 6 degrees slew rate and 7 arc seconds of periodic error. I personally think it sits somewhere between the Mach 1 and the 10 micron in terms of like complexity and quality. So I think if you're going to look for like a new premium mount, it makes sense to go with the Paramount just because of the extra features compared to the Mach 1. So, and it's a much less cost than the 10 micron. So it's kind of a good in between. I think it's a really good option. Unless, of course, you find like a really good used deal on like a Mach 1 or something, I think it makes a lot of sense to go with the Paramount MyT if you look at its specs. I'm out here with the Paramount right now. I just got everything polar aligned, and now what I'm doing is I'm running a T-point model. So what a T-point model is a pointing model that models a lot of errors that pop up in any astrophotography system. So what the pointing model can do is it can figure out like what your differential flexure is, it can measure what your polar alignment error is, a whole slew of other things. So I'm going through and running like a small T-point model so I can measure what my polar alignment error is and get that really dialed in for when I'm imaging tonight. I've been using the PolMaster for a long time now, maybe like 3 years, and it's always been like good enough for me, but I've never actually had a good valid chance to measure the polar alignment error that it produces. So T-point gives me a really nice tool to be able to do that. So that's what's going on here. So what it'll do is it'll go around the sky right now. It's probably hard to see the mount. Let me get my phone flashlight. So it's going around the sky basically, and it's slewing and plate solving all over the place. And from those slews and those plate solves, it can determine like what those errors are, because it knows where it should be pointed. And from measuring where it is by where it isn't, it can figure out how off, or the deviation. Kind of like the missile guidance system video, if you've seen that before.
The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
But yeah, I'm just going to run this model and see what my polar alignment error is, and then I think I'm going to go over to NGC 281 and image that until Orion's up. So yeah, catch you guys back then. Hey guys, so I haven't recorded any video of the MyT for a couple weeks now, and the time since I recorded that daytime video, I've gone to a star party with it, and I've just been using it quite a bit more. I ran into a couple issues with the SkyX, and I'll talk about my thoughts on the SkyX as well. Talking about the Paramount, because the two are kind of intertwined, but it's been doing me pretty good so far. You've probably seen I posted a couple pictures with it, Triangulum Galaxy, and I've done a bunch of Orion Nebula, but haven't finished that picture yet. But Paramount's still been doing pretty good. Yeah, so I'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully we'll get this M42 picture finished up. Okay, so one of the big problems I had about the SkyX when I was just starting to get everything figured out as far as the PEC modeling goes is that there's a little bit of lacking documentation for some things, a little bit of guessing around with the settings. Like for example, when you're running the camera on the back, when you're collecting your PEC data, it has to be at like 0, 360, or 180 degrees. So you'll go ahead and collect your data at like one of those settings, and then once you're fitting your PEC curve, you'll have to check whether or not your telescope was pointed west. So if it was pointed this way, it would be pointed west, and if it was pointed that way, it would be pointed east. But there's no mention of how the camera angle plays into west or east. Because if you're at 360 and pointed west, it's the same as being pointed east. But if you're at 180 and pointed west, it's like being pointed west. So there wasn't any reference to those angles. So what I was actually doing was recording the PEC data, and then instead of correcting for it, I would double it by stacking it on top of itself. So realized that error after a couple days, and now that that's gone, it does really well. So Yeah, easy to get mixed up with some of the things going on in the SkyX. So after a couple months of using it now, I think my final thoughts on the MyT so far is that it's really a nice mount. It's a huge step up from the Atlas or any other kind of entry mount I could have had. It's incredibly nice. Since making the video, I've also done through the mount cabling, so I have my whole system through the mount cabled, and I have to say it's really slick, and I'm excited to see what I can do with it in the future. One other thing I have to nitpick though is the software bisc pull master adapter is bad. It's very bad. It has a little flexiness about it, a little up and down rattly motion that makes it pretty bad for polar alignment. So don't get the pull master adapter for software bisc. Other than that though, incredible mount, and I'm pretty excited to see what kind of new scopes I can get on this thing. I also have to say huge thanks to OPT Corp for helping me get the mount. Awesome company. Definitely check them out. Check the link in the description as well. I'll have a link to the MyT and the stuff I used in the video. And if you want to help support the channel, you can use those links to go get yourself a nice expensive mount. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.